Welcome back to another video. My name is the Grumpy Dad, and I'm addicted to Wingbits. They say the first part of getting help is admitting you have a problem. And the only cure for it I can see is adding some more stations. Of course, properly placed, but we'll get to that. So, Wingbits had a big AMA yesterday. Y'all should have known the video was coming. I was in the process of making a junk coin video. If you haven't checked it out, we're getting some very good returns on it. Check that video out for junk coin. I released it Wednesday morning. I think today's Wednesday. It all blends in after a while. Got a lot of stuff going on. Y'all know I always like to tell y'all my personal tragedies and stuff going on, but y'all know my son's graduating high school. They do a lot of things the last week of school. And it was a pretty cool deal. They had a senior parade where, you know, they go through a couple of streets in the neighborhood. We fixed up my truck and put his name all over the windows and pictures and all that stuff like that. And did the parade. It was a pretty cool deal. All the teachers were out there cheering them on, and it was a cool deal. And then we had then Friday is the graduation. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, my son, for those who have not realized by now, for those who don't know, my son and I are very, very tight. And I'm going to need medication for Friday. It's not going to, because when he graduates, he's actually, you know, a month later going to be going to North Louisiana for college. And I'm not going to handle it well. So, but neither here or there, we're happy right now. We got this big Wingbits AMA. And actually, I took a break from work and I told him I had a very, very, very important conference call that I had to deal with, and put my headphones on, and I actually took a full page of notes this time to make sure I had enough stuff written down. Now, if I can read my gibberish, that's always the question. But before we go any further, the usual, please do me one favor. Take 1 second right now, look down, and hit the thumbs up for this video. Again, I know some of y'all might be newer here and don't, you know, this ain't your normal YouTube page. I don't have professional people doing all the editing and all the stuff like that, but you hitting that thumbs up button spreads the word about Wingbits. So as long as you like Wingbits and want to support the Wingbits project, hit the thumbs up showing that you support Wingbits more than you support the Grumpy Dad YouTube channel. For those who haven't seen in my previous videos, also, I do have Discord now. Check the link below and you'll see my Discord link. And I have a number of channels dedicated to a number of projects we're in. And it's a cool way of you getting updates on all your projects in one spot. But we also have some other stuff, not crypto related. Hunting section, fishing section, gaming section for like Call of Duty and stuff, ham radio, and just different stuff like that. So it's a cool place to hang out. I think I got about 130, 140 subscribers now. So that's a pretty cool milestone. Another milestone I just hit was 30,000 subscribers. I thank y'all very much. And hopefully we keep reaching for more. So I appreciate it. So let's get started with this Wingbits thing. So yesterday was Tuesday, May 13th, and they had their AMA or their, whatever they call it, session or whatever it is on Discord. And, you know, they give an hour at a time. And we had, I know at one time, over 70 people in that Discord. So it was very well participated, very well attended. And I think that goes to show you the support that this project has right now. So for those who are new here, Wingbits is a project that I have been involved in probably, 2 years now. So yeah, somewhere around June, I'm gonna say May, June 2023, I got involved with my first station on Wingbits. There was not many people around at all. 3, 4, 5 stations in the United States, you know, West Coast, East Coast, that lower East Coast area, Georgia, and that's about it. I was the first one completely down the South. Nothing was even in Texas. So I've been involved with them for a while. Just so I can say for the record, I'm not, you know, paid by them at all. Not paid for these videos. I'm not a member of their employed staff or anything like that. This is me just supporting a project. And y'all know when I start really supporting projects, I get behind them and do videos and stuff like that. I did recently get a WB200. And I really need to go install it, but I love playing with it because every time I touch this thing, I tell y'all, I can't, the pictures that you see online don't do justice on how sturdy and stout this thing is. Like, it's metal. And I did some very extensive testing with it recently. Y'all can catch my video from last week, MGW310 comparisons, and I put different antennas on it. I like to keep saying mileage may vary because of what I found and what you found. But for most case points, for most the average DIY station, this thing clearly outperforms it. Clearly outperforms. But I'm not going to get involved in that because I spent an hour in another video going over that. So what's this video? This video is going to be about our AMA. And, you know, we had a couple of different things going on. One of the first things that he mentioned was that they have several pilot programs or test programs going on right now with several different potential customers, and hoping that some of those lead to a full-time, you know, account or, you know, program with them, if that's the word you want to use. And these are my words, what I'm about to say, and strictly my words and my opinions, what I'm going to say. My opinions are only grumpy. That's why they call me grumpy. That's why the disclaimer's in the front of the video. What I'm about to say is nothing from Wingbits or reflected by Wingbits. But as usual, like every AMA, in every so many days, like clockwork, you have some a-hole smartass that wants to come into the Discord saying, how do y'all expect this project to succeed? That y'all selling stuff that's free from other companies and stuff like that, and do y'all even have customers yet? And, you know, I this being the AMA in front of all them people, I kept my mouth mostly shut, and I let Robin answer that. And, you know, first of all, what I want to say is that for those people who keep saying that and regurgitating that crap over and over again, no business is getting FlightAware or Radar Box or ADSB Exchange, any of those free stuff. It's free to regular people, but companies are paying for that. That's what the whole premise of Wingbits started as, is those companies are taking people who would just want to do this as a hobby, who are sending, they're paying for that equipment, sending that data into those companies for free, not getting paid for it. And then those companies are turning around and selling that API or that data to certain customers, and they're profiting off of it. And that's what the whole thing Wingbits came about, is they're saying, no, wait a minute, we need to compensate the people who are submitting this data to us. And that's where it started at. So that's what I want to say about that. People need to quit saying, regurgitating that. Second, so then Robin comes in and Robin says they have several pilot programs, but he also said, this is how I have it written down, there are some small airlines, 6 or 7 companies that are either in the onboarding phase already or in the testing phase now to be potentially onboarded as customers. They have admitted in the past they already have paid customers who are using this as like a secondary service, where they might be in contract with one of those other companies. Wingbits, because they're in a contract with other company, you know, they're not going to quit using them because they're stuck in a contract with them. That they're using Wingbits as a secondary type of ingest, because the Wingbits stations have way more data, more overlap, more redundancy, and all this stuff like that. And he really talked about this in one of the last AMAs. But we're offering a service, or Wingbits is offering a service and data that's not seen by anybody else. And these companies are interested in that. So they are working on that. And in fact, me, this is my, you know, I have 1 or 2 negative things I'll say about everybody, including Wingbits. One of my negative things is that I think Robin needs to spend, Robin has all these people here, and I know he has a lot of meetings and stuff like that. I think he needs to devote a little bit more time to these AMAs. You have all these people here who spent a lot of money on stations and stuff. Sit here and entertain some of their goofy questions a little bit longer. Don't be so quick to rush off. I know, look, I'm the guy who has a live that I say it's going to be an hour every Thursday, and it ends up being 2 and 3 hours because people are going to keep asking questions and keep talking. And I've always said, as long as I don't have something going on, we've had a live go 3 hours one time because people were asking questions and discussing themselves. And I'm like, hey, they're not leaving, so let them keep going. And I kind of feel like that about this AMA that they do once a month. I wish it would last a little bit longer. But what I'm getting at is, on yesterday, he had to leave because he had a appointments set up to meet with a major airline in Japan when this stage was over with. That's the potential customers he's dealing with, which is going to be huge for this project. It's another reason why I tell people, like, understand, look, I'm getting stepped on too. In every video, you have to go to the Wingbits map. If you are a new customer, check that map and see if that spot is open for you. And even if your spot at your house or where you want to put that station at is open, check to see how many stations there are around maybe 100, 150 mile radius. Because if there's several stations, this project's still probably not for you. Rewards can be very low. But either way, if you are a current miner or contributor to this project, and you do, or if you are getting very, very good rewards, because there's only 2, 3, maybe 4 stations around you, don't get upset when there's another station that comes and occupies a hex within 100 miles of you, and you find your rewards start dipping. Look, I understand we want to do, and we want to make money. We'll make passive income. You've seen any of my other videos. On Mondays, I do a video going over every project we're in and the rewards of that. It's hard to break off from the selfishness of, hey, I want to get, I did another video one time. I know I keep getting sidetracked, but that's just me. On how greedy are we getting in some of these projects? What are we expecting for rewards? Are we ever going to see Lambo type money again, helium type money again, where I made $5,000 in 17 days? I just don't think so. We also have to realize, like we're seeing with some other projects, if we don't get enough people involved in this, the project starts to fail or struggles, or the tokens start really struggling. We're seeing that right now in 2 or 3 projects that had very piss poor TGEs and Mainnets and CEX releases and stuff like that. We don't want to see that with Wingbits. And one way that we can assure that that's going to help this project is we do need more people mining. Now, again, if you live in Dallas, Texas, you're in the middle of Dallas that has 45 stations within a 100-mile radius, they don't need any more stations. It's not what I'm talking about. But where there's a place where there's 3 or 4 stations, and maybe on the other side of the city, somebody wants to post one up, don't get upset with that, because chances are they're going to get a little bit different aircraft readings than you are. That's going to help the project. Yes, you might get a little dip in your rewards, but we have to help this project too. For the give and take. Look, I have all of South Louisiana covered with 10 or 12 stations between me and my friends. I still got people setting up stations around me. How do you look at that map and say, yeah, I think we need another station there? Because they don't understand. They think that hex is open and I'm going to make some smoke. That's what it's about. But we have to support this project. So, and supporting this project helps bring in those airlines, because those airlines are asking about what kind of coverage is being provided. So, we talked about that. They have recently hired 3 new developers and a marketing person. So that shows you that they are expanding their ranks here. They're bringing on more employees and stuff, which is awesome for growth. And it shows us that they're willing to make that financial, statement or expense to hire these people. And it's needed. That's a positive thing also. I kind of missed this part. And then I really looked into this, but they were part of, or mentioned in the article on Wall Street Journal. Other than the big tokens like the Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, when do you really see the projects, these deep in projects in Wall Street Journal? But somehow I missed this. This was on there on Wingbits' Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And I just found out. I did a Google search. So at some point in this article, they actually speak to Robin, and they talk about, what his customers are. Robin speaks about what his customers are looking for ways to reduce the amount of fuel they use with effort to lower emissions. And, they talk to them. And as part of this article, I think that's huge for this project. Huge when Wall Street Journal is giving you some type of cred that you're involved in their articles now. So that's pretty cool. he discussed that they got new maps. When you go to the Wingbits website, like I was just talking about the maps and stuff, there's now altitude and flight path that you can see. I'll be honest with y'all, I haven't played that much with it. You know, I'm doing more on the mining side. I really haven't played that much with the maps. But you can adjust with altitude, flight paths. But what's coming soon is something that's been highly requested with this project. There'll be a search function soon where you can be able to search for flights, kind of like you do with some of these other projects. And I think that's a huge step, again, towards showing that this can be a legitimate project and compete against these other ones. Mike, or actually, he also discussed that documentation is getting updates on some of the documentation, white papers and stuff like that. I guess FAQs, but that documentation website that I even referred to on several of my videos, some of that is kind of older with a little bit of older software updates and stuff, and that needs some freshening up, and they are in the process of getting those done. So another thing actually said as a kind of a statement of how busy they are getting and why they had to bring those extra people in is they're now averaging about 500 tickets a month. And that's a lot of tickets compared to what some other projects are doing. And look, I'm sure some of them tickets are asking questions that can easily be found in pinned comments or FAQs or different sections of that documentation. But hey, either way, they're opening, and it takes somebody to sit there and have to work with them on those problems. And, you know, you talking about 16 to 20 tickets a day, you see why they need the help. Because, you know, if somebody's having an issue with a station, it ain't just a simple answer. They got to sit there and work with them and figure it out. So, but I still think that shows a testament to how big this project is getting, that you're seeing that kind of ticket volume come through. So part of that also was, if you do open a ticket and nobody answers it within the first hour or something like that, don't get upset. Again, they have the average of 16 to 20 tickets opening a day. So they have to work with those people. Robin mentioned that there's actually 40% of the network is now Hyfix Stations. And I want y'all to think about that for a second. You know, we know that we reached 2,000 DIY stations because that's where they cut them off at. And those weren't stations just kind of being reserved. Those are stations that people should have been putting online, because they also got the geosigner. And then we're also going to get a bonus for those stations being online from before testnet, mainnet, whatever it is. And I'll talk about that in a second if I remember. But yeah, now you have 40% of the network is now Hyfix stations, which means you have about 1,186 of Hyfix stations online. They know that there's about 4,500 to 5,000 sold. And the last update they got was about 2,246 stations have shipped out. So you have about another 1,100 stations, about another 1,100 stations that have been shipped out that are not even online yet. You can, you see their hexes on the maps too. Again, I have several in Louisiana that I know are going to be coming online soon. But that shows you the growth of this network. I know some of y'all are cringing. I know y'all from seeing y'all in my live and seeing y'all's comments in my videos. And some of y'all are cringing at that. But again, I would have to think majority of those have their hexes already reserved if they did it the right way and followed the instructions. Because when you buy a Hyfix station, especially if you use one of Grumpy's codes to save you 10%, hey, that's saving you $400, $500, $40 or $50 to almost $100 off these stations, depending on which one you buy. But hopefully, before you take a chance on buying a $400, $500, $600 station, whatever they're going for now, you go and you reserve your hex. So the people who already have stations that might start panicking, thinking they got all these stations about to come online, really those hexes should already be reserved on the map. So don't start panicking just yet. But again, almost 5,000 devices sold, and you already had 2,000 DIY devices. So that's a potential for 7,000 devices. When just back in last October, I think it was Octoberish, we hit the 2,000 mark. So that's a, that's 5,000 stations in, what was it, about 7 months? That's pretty crazy. So 2,200 stations been shipped out. Another thing that was discussed was retroactive bonuses. If you paid attention to the announcements and tokenomics and stuff that was updated, the people like me who had devices during testnet phase, when you go to Mainnet, we will get a retroactive bonus for those stations that were online during testnet. The issue came in was some people are getting rid of DIY devices in lieu of adding a Hyfix station, the WB200 or the MGW310. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on that in a minute. You know how bad it's going to be. But the problem came in as people were complaining that, wait a minute, if I'm taking my DIY station off and deleting it and adding a WB200 right here, why would I lose that retroactive bonus? I'll still have a station online. That station was still online for the last possible 6 months, year and a half. On Grumpy's case, 2 years. And I shouldn't lose that. And they reviewed it and they agree. So now that exact station doesn't have to be online. If you replace it with another one, that one should take a spot. Now, here's Grumpy's take on that. Sit down and take a deep breath. Why would you delete a DIY station? DIY stations, and I tell this to people in the Discord, I'm deleting my DIY station. Can you tell me how? Why? Go find somebody else's house to go stick that thing in. Even if, and I know I'm not supposed to be saying this, and y'all know I preach normally 99% of the time. I preach against what I'm about to say. This is the one of those do as I say, not as I do type of things, or whatever. This shows you how much I can flip flop. DIY stations are never coming back as far as licenses. What is out there, what is licensed, those original 2000 and those geosigners are never coming back as far as additional ones. If I don't want nobody to hear that the wrong way and think that DIY stations are going somewhere. No, if you have a DIY station with a geosigner, you're good. Don't panic. Don't worry about what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that if you already have that DIY license, that station was online, why would you delete it? You go stick it somewhere else. Now, the problem is if you take it offline, if I'm not mistaken, if it's offline for like 100 days, I think you lose it, or you lose the hex or something like that. Because at some point, they are going to start reclaiming hexes that were claimed. So, and I got like 2 different stations right now. One of them, the station blew up or whatever, and that station's offline. I got to get that one back online. I really don't want to go ride all the way back to where I had it hosted at, and it didn't really do that good. So I'm trying to find another place to host it, but I'm so busy with life, I really haven't messed with it. So I'm really just need to go throw the thing back online to get it back online. But again, my advice is, if you got your mama's house, your grandma's house, your sister's house, your best friend's house or something, even if it's just a temporary thing, you move that, because you have to move that DIY station. You got to move this DIY station out of that hex to put this one in there. You see what I'm saying? So you have 2 ways of clearing the hex out that you want to put this. If this hex right here where I'm living at has this station in it, and I want to put this one, you have 2 choices. You delete this one, and then the hex should be clear, that then you can add this one, or you go move this one somewhere. And you can immediately move it right now. I know I might get in trouble from this. I know Axie's going to go and slap my hand for saying this, but you can go throw this in another hex somewhere. Is when you move it in the website to another hex, this hex now becomes clear, and you can stick this one. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Before somebody makes a whole comment, it's not gaming, because when you move this to the middle of the ocean just to save your hex, you're not getting rewards. Even if it looks like they're getting rewards, because I had to argue with somebody about this 2 days ago, or maybe yesterday on Discord. Oh, I see a station in the middle of the ocean and it's getting rewards. No, it's not. The station might be receiving aircraft, because I have a station right now that was grandfathered in. So it means they put it in a hex because this hex was occupied. I know I'm getting way off the deep end. Y'all follow me, please, on this. In the past, before we could buy hexes, and you were able to put 4 stations in one hex. Then eventually they went to this so it doesn't get too saturated, where each owner, when you put a station in this hex, it's now occupied. You can't do it. But the grandfather stations were allowed to stay there for a while. Well, now the new system doesn't like that. So I have a station in a spot that is technically hooked up with its GPS and stuff like that, but it's also occupying a double hex, if that makes sense. If you look on the Wingbits website right now, it shows I'm getting rewards. It shows that station's getting rewards. But I can tell you right now, I'm not getting rewards because the GPS is in the wrong spot. And my point I'm trying to get at is, it's not gaming to take this and go throw this in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The hex, I mean, not the device itself, the hex. You're not going to be gaming because it's not going to give you rewards because your GPS is in the wrong spot. And actually, and after it's moved, if you feel guilty and think you might be gaming, once it's moved and that hex turns red, you can unplug this. And then you can move the other one in there. So I wanted to hit on that because I'm seeing people say that I don't see why you would delete. If you ever find somebody that lives in Nova Scotia that doesn't have a Wingbit station for 400 miles, and you would clean up like it's a shopping spree, you're going to wish you had that DIY station and not have to go spend $450, $500 on a Hyfix station. Again, I'm sure I'll have some comments made to me about saying that, but that's just the truth. Me, I'm trying to get as many stations online and keep as many stations online as possible. And that's the direction I'm coming in. Not everybody's got $450 for another WB200. I know I don't. But I still want more stations out there. I'm trying to find a host now. If anybody wants to host this for me, if you live in a hex that don't have 150, 200 miles, don't have a station around you, or only one station, contact me on my Discord, and you could probably host one of Grumpy stations. You'll be elite. Elite. So that's the retroactive bonus. So then he talked about Mainnet launch, but I'm going to make y'all wait. Y'all going to wait for that one. So we have some big news on Mainnet launch. Let me see if I can go work backwards. So 474 of the largest airports will have lower station rewards. So what they're planning on doing is, this is something that we've all been pushing for, and we've heard them talk about, is, setting up stations close to airports, because a lot of their data that these customers want is lower altitudes, 10,000 feet and less, on the tarmac, on the runway. How long does it take to get from the runway to the tarmac, to the gas station, to 7-Eleven, and back to the gate to let the people off? How long does it take for them to unload the luggage and all that stuff like that? In a station, most stations that are 20, 30 miles from an airport aren't receiving any of that. So what they're going to do, what we couldn't figure out though, is how are they going to compensate us? There's going to, the plan is going to be kind of, if you're familiar with GeoNet, GeoNet has Superhexes. And inside that Superhex, you have multiple mini hexes. And those give bonuses. And that's their plans. I think it's a freaking hell of an idea. It's a hell of an idea on a simple way to give that person bonuses for giving that little mileage. I got a friend of mine that I help set up all his stations. I've showed y'all in the past. He has a station that is literally 500 feet from the main runway at New Orleans International Airport. Worked a deal out with a buddy that we work with, whose dad happens to own a little warehouse. The first warehouse, if you hop the fence of the runway, you cross the street and go to the buddy's warehouse. He's gonna be my test pilot subject that I can report back to y'all on how this works. I'm curious to know, again, I know I am the exception, but I'm curious to know how big some of these hexes are, because like for me, And I don't know if, maybe I'm explaining this wrong. I don't know if you have to necessarily have a station in those Superhexes, as long as you're picking up aircraft in those little Superhexes. What I'm getting at is my station that's about 20 miles as the crow flies to New Orleans International Airport. My station on the 400-foot tower, my buddy's 400-foot tower, I can see planes on the runway. So I should get compensation for that. So as you can see, like my station here, I'm 14 and a half miles from the New Orleans International Airport, but because of its angle, the antenna I use, the combination of everything, I can see planes taking off, landing. This is 75 feet right here. And again, it's 9 o'clock at night, so there's not a lot of flights coming in and out, but you can see at least there's two right here that's still, or were transmitting ADS-B. Like I said, my buddy's dad's warehouse place is like somewhere right here. So I'm thinking that it's going to be, if you can see what's in these Superhexes, that's how that's going to be covered. Another thing, while we were talking about Hyfix stations earlier that I wanted to discuss and I forgot. You have one or two people who questioned the heat tolerance, or they thought they would be in thermal throttle, or the station was shutting down because of heat. I've mentioned in my videos before that this station, stations like this, I guess I should just keep the thing up here. WB200, MGW310, these things were tested to 60 centigrade, 60 degrees centigrade, which is 140 degrees. Listen, I know we all like to have our competition on whose butt is hotter in the summertime and sweating the fat off of us like it's a sauna outside constantly. And I'll still say my 97 degrees with 100% humidity in New Orleans beats out 110 dry heat anywhere. But that's just me. But operating temperatures, this thing operated full throttle with no throttling, no issues at 140 degrees Fahrenheit, 60 degrees Celsius. So everybody keeps asking over and over about how's this going to handle heat, or I'm worried about how it's going to handle heat. You don't have to worry about that. People who are making this install 10 times harder because they want to take this off of here so that they can hide this part inside an air conditioner in a barn or in a shed, and then run a feed line all the way out for the antenna. It's not necessary. Now, one thing I did question was, this thing's heavy and stout. I keep saying how stout and hard this thing is, but you can't put this on a regular pole because it's going to be too much swaying. So I can see maybe splitting it up like that, but or look at my video talking about changing the antenna out and stuff. I'm way digressing. There's no problem putting that thing outside. I don't care what you tell me your temperatures are. If you're not getting over 140 degrees, then you're okay. If you're getting on over 140 degrees, move. Because that's Satan's butthole at that point. It's crazy. All right, and right before we start Mainnet, I'm gonna say this is the last thing before we get to Mainnet. There was kind of like I don't want to say the word argument, discussion, warm discussion, not heated, warm discussion, argument, whatever, that continues to go back and forth. I've had people literally PM me or DM me, whatever word you want to use, youngsters like to use nowadays, private message me on Discord or whatever, about claiming on the Wingbits. And why is their Solana testnet wallet different than the dashboard? And, they didn't claim lately. They think something's missing. And listen, they said again in the AMA, this is from Wingbits themselves. This isn't from Grumpy thinking about it or anybody else. You do not have to claim your Wingbits testnet tokens. However, you doing that helps them test that function out, which, let's be honest here, is one of the most important, at least for what we're concerned with, the most important function of this project is getting paid and rewarded at some point. So test it out, check it, make sure that your DevNet Phantom wallet or whatever wallet you're using is getting those rewards like they're supposed to. Now, this is a do as I say, not as I do. I have claimed once or twice, but hey, it works. I don't have time to go. Like, I do check my Wingbits stuff almost every day, but I'm not going worried about claiming those tokens and putting my. I like to look at my Phantom wallet too much, and I gotta sit there and put it in DevNet and stuff like that. But the question always comes in is, do you have to claim? No, you don't have to claim. If you've never claimed and you got tokens sitting there, I would suggest claiming to make sure that you have that. That's a way of making sure your wallets are correct. It's a way for me to make sure that my wallets that I inputted for my host is correct. Because let me tell you, some of these hosts don't know crypto, can't spell crypto. But I can tell you, when they first started seeing, for a while, it was all automatic. When they saw that testnet token not hit their Phantom wallet, they knew. So that kind of answers that. All right. Mainnet. Before we start on Mainnet, I want to make sure I say this disclaimer. I try to say this on every video. I don't do these videos for the hell of it. 99% of these videos I do projects on, I am in. I own those tokens. When Wingbits goes TGE, I'm going to own those tokens. I'm going to sell it when my back pocket dictates it's time to sell. When my fat gut, and I got a fat gut, tells me we might be at the top, or we might need to pull just a little bit of money back just to start creating that moon bag, as Wendy O calls it. I'm going to sell when I'm ready. I'm not going to come here in the middle of the day and do an X post and say, hey guys, I'm finally selling some of them Geo tokens I said I wasn't selling anytime soon. I've not sold hardly any of my projects. A little bit of grass. Other than that, nothing else. GeoNet, Demo, Sword Chain, Nadix, Silencio have not sold a dime, a penny, a token of it. The prices are too low. My plans are the same thing with Wingbits. There's some arguments back and forth on whether or not they think Wingbits should do any kind of staking. That's neither here or there for today's discussion. Just so y'all know, because people attack me on Discord that I'm trying to pump tokens. Look, I'm not BitBoy. I'm not telling you go buy this junk coin while the guy next to me, I'm giving him baseball signals to sell those tokens as y'all are pumping those bags. I'm not about all that. I have 30,000 subscribers. I don't have enough people to pump anything. But I do thank y'all for your support. So Mainnet, while I got y'all stuck here, here's my code again for Hyfix Station. Get them. Not financial advice, but get them. So, you know the question was coming up with Mainnet launch. I'm not going to sit here and discuss with y'all about what people have come up with some weird dates on Mainnet and or quarter one of 2020 something and blah, blah, blah. And I don't remember those. I'm not going to sit here and say you true. That's true. It's not true. Either way, it's not happening. So let's just get past that point. One thing that I am pushing for is I want a penalty, a 100 token penalty for every time somebody says when Mainnet or questions Mainnet in their Discord. I think at this point, 100 penalty. Booted from the Discord for 24, 48 hours on first offense. And that's how stupid it's getting. And I'm really not joking. There needs to be something. It just needs to get, it just, do you really think they're going to just like answer your question? Like, are you just not going into the announcements? Like, you don't think it's going to be the announcements? So what did they say about Mainnet? They're not rushing Mainnet launch. We can sit here and talk about it, and I mentioned it in the Discord, but you're not allowed to mention other projects, good or bad, in their Discord. I love the way Wingbits runs their Discord. I've always said that. So me, I got to tiptoe that line. For a fat guy, I can do some tiptoeing on the line. And I even made a comment in the middle of this AMA, and I said, yes, we don't want a rushed TGE mainnet just to make certain people happy when we can go look at the two recent projects that have had catastrophic TGEs, both starting with an S, meaning Silencio and SwordChain. We can even discuss Nadix to a point. If y'all don't catch my videos that often, go look back, and I did some wonderful videos on how much of a train wreck Silencio and SwordChain are with their tokens. Even though I am staking SwordChain at 60-something% staking, and I make triple in staking what I do daily in the actual project, they just getting delisted from MEXC. And that's about as sad can get. That's like a guy who is so down on his luck and so desperate and lonely he can't get a date, so he tries to get one with a hooker, and the hooker don't even want his money and says, no, thank you. That's how bad that is. I'm sorry, I make some bad dad jokes. But my point was, we don't want that. Now, y'all know me, I'm honest with y'all. And y'all know I really support the Wingbits project. The date they're given, do I think it's a little too far out? Absolutely. I'm not going to say a lot of y'all. I can't do it. Y'all know I'm not going to lie to y'all. They mentioned early in the year, and in February and March, Robin mentioned, we're going to go to Mainnet. We don't want to go to Mainnet also when the crypto market is on this down. Like you can say what you want. Crypto market looked bad the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. You could also say in the last week, this looked awfully good. Now, I'm not saying they should change their mind like that, but they had certain dates, certain milestones, goals that they want when they do this TGE mainnet. And he mentioned how he wants to make sure he has good exchange commitments from exchanges that you can hit from the United States, because certain projects are lacking that. But, some of the more popular exchanges. Now, he already said, don't ask him. He's not discussing the exchanges. If those exchanges want to, some of these exchanges like crypto.com or Binance or whatever, they do their own announcements. Coinbase, those are the announcements of, hey, these are the new tokens we're listing. These are the ones we're delisting. So, he's going to let that. But they want to make sure they have good revenue coming in from paying customers. They don't want to just have to put their own liquidity in there. So that is also a good thing. They also are working on, and I thought this was a pretty cool idea, working on several programs that you can exchange wings for flight miles or other rewards. They have like those, like my crypto.com card lets me go into like this suite, and there's a place to take a nap if you want, and free drinks, free alcohol drinks. I did a short or a video on it a while when I went on a conference last year and was held over in some city for an hour and a half because of delay. I went in there, took a nap or something like that. So I thought that was cool. That would be a cool thing. You can exchange your flight token. Your wings tokens for flight stuff and stuff like that. So another thing he mentioned that I think is a huge thing, and because of the recent Hawk Tour crap, I don't think people realize, especially people going into new projects, didn't realize how important this is, and now you do. They had some people loudmouths on Twitter X a while back, 2-3 weeks ago, complaining about the tokenomics and the token releases, or how the tokenomics are broken down for Wingbits. The percentage going back to the miners, percentage going to investors, percentages going to the team, and stuff like that. Even though it mimics GeoNet very, very closely, and nobody complained about GeoNet doing it, you got the loudmouths who are the same doubters who doubt, can Wingbits be sustainable? They're also complaining about the tokenomics. Robin announced no investors have tokens unlocked at TGE Mainnet. So the thing that happened with Hawk Tour, where everybody who got in early and the investors that invested the money, got all their all their Haktua tokens, and this happened to some other projects that I've mentioned. The investors are getting their tokens right away, and they can go dump those as soon as while the price is still somewhat high, because when they dump them, the price is going down. No team members have TGE unlocked tokens. The only people that are going to have their tokens unlocked at TGE Mainnet, when they announce the CEXs and all this stuff, are going to be us, the miners. Ladies and gentlemen, that's huge. Because I know y'all sitting here in suspense, waiting to hear when this mainnet's going to start. And that's why I'm telling you this now, so I have y'all, because I don't want y'all to click away once y'all hear the date. All these investors that they brought in, I was even concerned about it, is the more investments, I cringe when I see some of these projects say, yeah, we raised $7 million in seed money, fundraising. Yeah, but how much of your tokens did you have to give up? And are those tokens unlocked? Oh, it's killing me. Are those tokens unlocked on Mainnet? Because some of these projects are. And what happens to the price as soon as Mainnet comes and it does this and Haktua. That's why I still say Haktua, y'all can want her to go to the electric chair and everything like that. That dumb ditz had no idea what the hell she was doing, and she had no part of that. She wanted to do a meme coin. Somebody told her about meme coins. She kept telling everybody, come join my meme coin. These people took advantage of her and said, we'll do your meme token. And then they gave her locked tokens. This poor girl going through all this stuff, she can't even unlock the tokens, whatever they're worth. And these investors all got their tokens unlocked at TGE. Wingbits ain't doing that. The team's not doing that. So these people who complaining about the tokenomics and stuff, y'all can kiss it, because these people don't even have unlocked at TGE. Only the miners do. So with that mainnet launch, right now they're looking at the end of August to the first week of September. And the first question somebody asked after that was, how firm is that? And his answer was extremely firm, because they already have the contracts written out. Again, remember what I said earlier. They want to make sure they have good exchange commitments, but they also want revenue coming in from customers, their customers. And then they got contracts. And the contracts, they know when those contracts are going to start. And they know when that revenue is going to be coming in. They know when them exchanges are going to start. And he said it is firm first end of either August or the first week of September. So there's your mainnet announcement. I've been around long enough that I know 25% of y'all are going to be pissed off. 25% of y'all are going to be happy that there's a hard, firm date. And the other 50% of y'all are going to be like, it is what it is. I have to see it to believe it, or, some people feel it's far away. Again, y'all know me. I'm honest with y'all. I support the project 100%. When they kept talking about this at the end of last year, beginning of this year, then they wanted to get geosigners done, and then they want to figure out who's gaming and that kind of stuff like that. I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, so I apologize to the Wingbits team. But we still were kind of led on that we thought we would be in Mainnet by now. And if there's anybody who disagrees with me, feel free to tell me that. Did they ever come out and say, yes, we're going to be doing Mainnet? At least I don't remember them. I don't ever remember them saying, yes, we're doing Mainnet by quarter 1, 2025, quarter 2, 2025. I know that they said they wanted Hyfix Stations done by this time, and DIY and geosigners and all these other dates. I don't remember, but I do remember them kind of hinting at, hey, we do want geosigners to be up and running around, February, March. So, and by a certain date, you had to get them on there, or you're not going to have rewards anymore. So we can go through to see who is gaming and not gaming. and take away tokens before we pay Mainnet and that kind of stuff like that. That was 2 months ago, maybe a month ago. I can't remember what I ate for lunch earlier. Nothing, because my stomach hurts too bad. I need this surgery. But anyway, you know me, I'm grumpy about everything. I tell everybody all the time. I told you all this 1,000 times. I could win the lottery tomorrow, the Powerball, and win $10 million, and I'd be grumpy about it because I have to give half of it to taxes that don't deserve it, that are just going to go blow it on stupid projects anyway. So, you know, I love this project. I'm excited for this project. I'm excited for the future of this project. I can't wait to go put more stations up. I can be positive about 99.9% of it and still find 2% of what I don't like. I think 3.5 months is far away. It doesn't matter what Grumpy thinks. It don't matter if 99.99% of all y'all would go in the Discord and say, hey, I think that's too far away. The reason they're firm is because they got contracts and paperwork done for that time frame. So it's not changing. So we might as well just put a smile on our face that we know that there's, you know, some kind of sunshine or light at the end of the tunnel. But the tunnel is now 3.5 months further than we thought it was going to be. But there's still a light. You know, we could talk about other projects that we kept being told there was a light, but we could never see the light. The light never came. We can talk about that. You know, so if the 2% of this project I don't like right now is 1% is the date of Mainnet, and the other 1% is they won't let there be a grumpy fine on a Discord every time somebody uses the word when, WEN, for when Mainnet. That's the only two things I have to complain about. It really ain't that bad at all. Because if you think that's bad, then you need to go back and watch some of my Silencio videos and hear me talk about GeoNet. Not about GeoNet, about Demo and some of these other projects. Go look at my crash video on Helium. Then you'll realize that, man, he must have hit his head, because most of this video was positive. But this video is positive. We see a light at the end of the tunnel. We're happy. They came out with a damn good project. And I'm not supposed to be cursing because I'm going to get in trouble with YouTube. But I can't quit talking about this. I put this thing up in my backyard where I have a DIY station with an amplified SDR, and this thing blew it out the water. The 3 dB antenna gave me some, but when I put a 5.5 up there with the adapter, the 5.5 that I give it an Amazon, the same 5.5 antenna that people want to argue with me about, that's getting me, or whatever. I don't know if it's getting me right now today, but I have images. I put it on the Discord that I'm getting 93 and 94 hexes, which is almost 1,000, about 900 to 1,000 mile span radius around my station. That 5.5 antenna, that I still got people to this day want to argue with me about what antenna we should be using and not using. What DBI should work better. Go look at my hexes and shut your mouth. But my point is, when you stick that antenna on this thing's a beast. The improved LNA that we got with this thing is a beast. You look at this equipment. You look at what Robin's doing, talking about all these airlines and what he's doing in the Wall Street Journal. How can you not be excited for this project? How can you not be bullish on this project? But there's people out there. Look, I can't force your hand. I can't, what's the whole saying? You can lead a horse to water. But, even if you try to dunk his head in the damn thing, he might not drink. Look, they got YouTubers out there and other people who are bullish on projects that I don't even want to hear about. I don't want to hear about the 17th project that's trying to scrub my data off internet, and people constantly contacting me about, you heard about this new project? You install this on your computer. I'm not installing nothing on my computer. This is a legitimate project, standalone project. Nobody else is doing ADS-B. They got one project that keeps talking about coming up. Why? Are y'all not paying attention? Y'all not going to touch this project. This project got satellite now. How can you not be bullish in this project? If you've been following my channel for more than a week or two, you know that I'm bullish on this project. And I'm not getting paid by them. I got one station, this one, as a thank you. And I told them thank you for it. And it is. And I still critiqued it because that's how grumpy I am. But y'all know, if y'all watch that video, the only thing I can find negative about this thing right here, the only thing I can find negative, the only thing grumpy who can find negative with everything. I got a raise at work last year, huge raise. Never thought I'd be making the money I'm making in a lot of work I'm doing. Probably because they knew they got people trying to scalp me. But anyway, I can't use the B word, BITCH. I can't use that word. But I complained because my taxes went up. Because that's me. I'm going to complain. The only thing I can only find one thing to complain about is whoever decided to make this a TNC. I want to meet them at the Wingbits convention whenever we have that in the year. And I swear to God, I'm breaking his testicles with my foot because I'm going to swift kick him in the testicles. Whoever decided, I want to know. I have a bounty on who wanted the TNC connector on this. I've been in the RF business for years. The only time I've ever seen TNC connectors is on a computer stand, Hyfix computer stand, where the external antennas, so that our Hyfix workstation, our Dell or Toughbook workstations can get better signal in some of the rural areas. We have external antennas. They have TNC on them so that they can actually screw those. You can't fit the big end. So they have TNC. It's the only place I've ever seen TNC. Never seen TNC antenna. And that's why you can't find 5.5 antennas with TNC on them nowhere. Who decided this? But other than that, this freaking thing is awesome. And you know what? I'll be honest with y'all. If GeoNet wasn't having a halving in a month, I would probably splurge and buy the red one like this. Because I want to see what the GeoNet version like this can do. That's how high I am in these projects. But I'm also the kind of guy that will forego eating lunch at work to be able to save a little bit of cheddar to buy the DCA into some more tokens, because I feel like it's going to pay out in the long run. Or when I was putting up 20 different Wingbit stations between me and a group of guys, I got at least 20 stations. I had to keep buying antennas and SDRs and all this stuff like that. I'd skip lunch every now and then, or bring a sandwich, bring leftovers to save that money to put it, because that's just how I'm built, And I'm so positive in this project that I'm going to have a red one of these probably one day, just so I can put it in my hands. I know this video went long, but I don't know how else to get the point across on how bullish I am. All right, so I'm done. Just remember, if y'all want to get one of these devices, use the code Hyfix.ai. Ships basically everywhere, I'm told. Helium Deploy also ships United States, maybe some other places also. You can use that code, or I have codes in the description below. Come join my Discord. We've been talking about Wingbits and several other projects. Get in the Wingbits Discord. Check my Twitter X out. Hey, if you live in the United States and you need synthetic motor oil, high quality racing, motorcycle, diesel, cars, generators, grease, and stuff like that, check my side business out. I've had it for about 25 years. It is struggling hard because I'm dedicating almost all my free time to YouTube and these deep end projects. So I thank everybody, all jokes aside. I thank everybody who has reached out to me in private message about my health issues. It is what it is. You get old, I'm almost 50. Start getting some health issues. And even with some great insurance, you got to pay deductibles up front. And top of IRS and stuff, you take extra out in taxes. Trying to prepare yourself for the crypto we sold or moved last year, and side business and stuff like that. My son turned 18, so I can't claim 100% of them anymore. So you owe for that, and then you got to help them get into college in 2 months, and you got to pay for that. It's just always something. So the people who have reached out to me, I appreciate it. It does mean a lot. And the support I got, the support of people joining my Discord, the support of the Wingbits people, that Wingbits family, that community, just from me being in the disc AMA yesterday and people, making comments and stuff. I do appreciate that kind of stuff. I never thought, anybody who knows me personally never thought I'd be doing something like this. People who know me, who just find out I have a YouTube channel, don't believe us. They don't believe 30,000 people would even listen to my negativity. It goes to show you. But people think I sound real. So I know I'm talking too much, but I enjoy talking to y'all. Thursday nights is our live. We talk some more. Mondays is our summary of projects. And sometimes I jump on lives when I'm bored or anything. I'm going to play some Call of Duty because my stomach hurts too bad to even go try to go to sleep now after I edit this video. Thank y'all for watching.